Hi everyone, this is Sakshi Mandhyan, your happiness coach and psychologist. We are here again with a new episode on the learning of Srimad Bhagavad Gita series. Today we'll be talking about a very interesting topic which is called avoid anger. As you all know that anger is a very common emotion that you would experience in your day-to-day routine, and um, there are a lot of impact on your body, on your mind, on your soul because of anger. So today we'll dive deeper into the topic and understand what are the side effects, consequences, benefits of anger. So here we go. So Papa, are there does Bhagavad Gita talk about the ill effects, or the ways and the triggers of anger, etc.?
Yeah, you very rightly mentioned, Sakshi, that anger is a very important emotion, and it is something which each one of us has experienced so many times, and the lesser we experience it, the better it could be. And sadly, anger, although it is a very basic emotion, but it is the consequences of anger or the way one handles it actually decides how it impacts our everyday life. Yes, Bhagavad Gita has actually dealt with anger in a very very significant way. In chapter 2, verse 63, Lord Krishna very clearly says that one should keep away from anger, because anger actually impacts your judgment. And the moment your judgment gets impacted, what happens is that it clouds your memory. So, the process, and it has been very beautifully explained by Lord Krishna. So, you lose your memory. The moment your memory gets impacted, the next result is that your intellect gets very negatively impacted, and that leads to a situation where you lose control over your faculty of discriminating between good or bad. And you see a vindication of your thought process as allowing you to go out with your outbursts, and and you seek righteousness in your bad behavior. So this is how it happens. Now at the ground level, what is happening is that there is some event or some situation, okay, which when happens is not as per your prediction, your liking, your desire, and you suddenly feel as if it should have happened not like this, but like this or in this way, okay, and you are not understanding that in this whole process you are actually being judgmental. And not only judgmental, you go a step further, you start acting like God. And it happens as if you are trying to say that because of some frustrations or some bad experience of yours, or your self-esteem or integrity having been questioned or hurt in the past, you suddenly realize that this given event or situation actually justifies you to kind of seek your righteousness in those outbursts, and you don't realize that in the process actually you have vitiated the whole environment so much that although anger stays for only a few minutes or moments, but the consequences are disastrous, and they could be continuing for a long time. And no wonder therefore Lord Krishna in chapter 16, verse 21, he says that Kam, Krodh and Lobh, which is lust, anger and greed, they are three gateways to hell. Now when we say hell, we are talking about, in our present circumstances, being in hell means being not able to achieve a kind of standing or a position or respect or eminence which any working professional or anybody anywhere would be keen to acquire. So this is all about how it works, how the anger works.
Beautiful. So basically, anger impairs your judgment and
Yeah.
decision making
Yeah.
capability. So Papa, when it comes to anger, does Gita say anything about checking anger at the earlier stage or at the earliest
Yeah.
stage?
Yeah. A stitch in time saves nine. So, although Lord Krishna didn't say that, but he meant it very much. And he said that since anger emanates from our excessive desire, which is known as our lust, our hankering for things. So he actually makes it very clear in chapter 341, verse 41, wherein he says that it has to be nipped in the bud, and we should make sure that we should not wait for the anger to emerge and then try control it. We should make sure, and it comes with practice, we should make sure that anger is not allowed to get originated, and this requires a lot of training, a lot of practice, and our end goal is to seek equanimity of mind. Equanimity of mind means we become so equipoised in the midst of, say, failure or success, doesn't matter to us, gain or loss doesn't matter to us, good behavior or not so good behavior hardly impacts us. Now, this situation is what an ideal person should have, and it doesn't come that early. It comes with a lot of practice, and the result becomes that whenever such situations emerge, the person would not have undue or heightened expectations, and therefore the anger would never result.
Absolutely, I think so. Neutrality is the key to
Absolutely.
Being more stable and
Yeah.
calm in your environment.
Yeah.
So Papa, at a practical level, how can we handle anger? How do we manage anger?
Anger is something which is happening in all corners of our life. The best solution is to be in a position to control it. And as we just discussed, controlling it requires months or years of practice wherein we reach a situation wherein we find ourselves equipoised, which means I don't care whether it is good or bad, loss or gain. I am righteous, I am focused on my work and I am doing it. But then these things would take months, years, and maybe still be out of reach. A better course would be, in case we are in the interim period, instead of straight away seeking control, we should first learn to manage anger. Now, managing anger means doing some small practical things which would actually not only help us reach that level of being equipoised, which is the ideal situation, but also ward off the anger that is there in the interim period. Now, very small steps, and we have been doing it, all of us have been doing it in some way or the other. One is, the moment we get angry, be quiet for a few minutes, take a deep breath, maybe a glass of water. Another thing could be get away from the scene of argument, or some situation where your being there could aggravate the situation. Another very important thing which many people did is to write down your feelings on a piece of paper as to why you got angry. And I'll share with you a brilliant example about this. We have all heard about Abraham Lincoln, who's been one of the most popular, famous US presidents. Now, he, during his presidential years, he would often have his army commanders or his aides or his secretary to the government. Now these guys would come with something, there would be some heated argument in the meetings, but Abraham Lincoln would never lose balance. He would just write down things, post the meetings, write down his feelings, his anguish, okay, and then he would caption it, not signed, not delivered, and put it in one of the boxes that he would have kept there in his office. And you would wonder, and he recounts later on that on most of the occasions, the very next day when the same person came, he was an entirely different person. He had no annoyance, no anger, no heated arguments. And it is quite interesting to share that when President Lincoln died, he left behind loads of such not signed, not delivered, small write-ups. So this tells us that if we make small steps towards attaining that stage of being equipoised, it is certainly possible. And people as successful and as big as Abraham Lincoln, they have successfully tried it. So this is how we manage, anger.
So we manage anger initially, and then eventually we get
Yeah.
to control it.
Yeah.
So not directly that you
Yeah,
go and
yeah.
control.
It is actually going to disappoint you, and therefore the way forward should be managing it and managing it better, and then reaching a situation of being equipoised in all kind of situations. And then situations which generally anger you would not impact you at all.
Absolutely, absolutely. I 100% agree. In fact, while I was listening to, I could understand the different steps and
Yeah.
what do you call it? The method to
Yeah.
managing and handling
Yeah.
your anger.
Yeah.
So, Papa, can anger be channelized positively as well?
Anger is a very powerful passion, wholly energized situation, where somebody is at a very, heightened, emotionally stage. The point is, we have, and fortunately, it can be channelized positively, and we have brilliant examples of people who not only channelized anger properly, but became much bigger than, much more successful than what they were before they started, doing this. The biggest example globally is of Mahatma Gandhi. As you all know, Mahatma Gandhi, when he was thrown out of the a railway compartment while traveling in South Africa, he was traveling in a first class compartment. He had a valid ticket, but we all know that racial discrimination was at its peak during those days, and nobody could stand a brown person sitting in first class compartment, and he was thrown out. Now he had two options. He could have also shouted back, raised his voice, met the authorities. He had the ticket and he would have made an issue out of it. But he just nurtured his anger, okay? And this anger actually gave him the energy to develop the concept of satyagraha, which actually started in South Africa. But when he came back to India, we all know that the collective anger of millions of Indians who were all, suffering for decades. Now, this collective anger was channelized so beautifully by Mahatma Gandhi that in the Satyagraha and the non-cooperation movement and the Bharat Chodo Andolan, we find millions of people, opposing the British rule without any violence. So this was the best example. Few other examples which could probably interest the younger generation. Very important UK bands like the Sex Pistols, or another, I'm not getting the name. The American one, which is again a very important band, the Nirvana. Now, all these bands which became a rage with the youth in the UK and the US, the founders of these bands were the ones who were castigated by their respective governments, local governments, media, for the kind of new culture they were trying to come out with. But still, instead of fighting at the local level, they converted all their rage into creative landmarks and milestones. And these bands became world famous. The most famous example, if I could say so, is a young girl, this Greta Thunberg, a young girl of 19 years who is a climate activist from Sweden. She has the distinction of lambasting the world leaders at a forum where people like Donald Trump and others were sitting, and he actually questioned them. How can the present day political leaders be so unmindful of the future generations, and why they have made this and climate problems so difficult. And no wonder it was because of the outburst of this young girl that the whole debate about climate control globally has actually gone, many, it has reached a stage where now it has actually alarmed the whole humanity. So these are the brilliant examples. Even when we look at our legacy, the Indian legacy, when I look at Guru Granth Sahib, in Guru Granth Sahib there is this Ang 932 which says काम क्रोध काया को गलाए जो कंचन सुहागा दलाए, which means कि काम and क्रोध, which is lust and anger, they actually destroy your body the way borax destroys gold. Similarly, if we and as children we have all heard about Durvasa Rishi, or maybe Jamdagni, or Vishwamitra, or Bhrigu, or Parshuram. Now all these sages, renowned sages, we have heard stories about their anger, that in their anger they would say something and normally it would come correct. You'll find that in all these stories, what we fail to notice is the anger is not being celebrated. What is being celebrated is that because of their tapasya, okay, they had acquired some power to to get some results they would desire. But if you think properly, in famous Rahim Dohas, we find क्षमा बड़ेन को चाहिए ओछन को उत्पात का रहीम हरि को घट्यो जो भृगु मारी लात, which means that although these stories related to anger have been always been there, but what this doha actually indicates is that despite the fact that they were so renowned sages, because of anger they lost a lot of sheen from their personality, and it was something which was never appreciated. In no age anger was celebrated. So this is all about this. And at the corporate level, now when we come at the present times, I would like to share that even the corporate leaders, the reports say that people who get angry too soon are never popular with their people. And what they get is they are feared, they are not respected. And you would agree that even in our corporate parlance, all leaders, business leaders, be it the CEOs or the COOs or chief marketing officers or directors, they are actually all chasing eminence. Eminence doesn't come when people fear you. Eminence comes when people respect you. So anger should never be allowed to overpower, your personality. And if all that we have discussed, it is followed by the present day business leaders or homemakers or government officials or business people, I think we can have a much more vibrant and happier world.
I definitely agree to whatever you said, Papa. This was like amazing. And in fact, I am also taking away few points from here. Especially, when you spoke about anger and the way you explained initially that it hampers your judgment and decision making. So it's important to understand it at a level where you're initially taking small steps, managing your anger, and then you're creating a goal also, the goal of reaching that neutral point, that neutrality, that equanimity that you spoke of. So reaching that point is also the goal. So if you want to channelize your anger positively, this goal, if you keep in mind that okay, I have to start from point A and then I have to reach that point where I become neutral, that's an incredible point. So that way you have a focus with which you can walk towards that stability.
And if you adopt the habit of Abraham Lincoln's, you can have some small notes made, and maybe later on, a few years down the line, you can find it, you have stopped writing notes, which is an indication that now you are getting calm and composed and balanced, and you find hardly any occasion when Buddha says about anger, he says whenever a person gets angry, he or she becomes the first casualty. And he also says that anger is like drinking poison and wishing that the other person would die. So you are only killing yourself, you are only impacting yourself, and no present day leader or any team member or a manager or anybody in any field would ever be would ever like to be remembered for his anger. I think they would all like to be remembered for the good deeds, the contribution they made to their respective fields.
Yes, absolutely. So I think we all should practice this activity
Absolutely.
of writing letters and mentioning
Yeah.
never signed,
And
never
never
delivered.
delivered. So never, and I always wish that all of us have a depleting number of such letters in our drawers, and a time comes that we don't need to, and we don't get impacted by such situations, and then it would be the time when actually we would be actually peaking, and we should all peak. Why not? So,
Absolutely, absolutely. So all of you, I hope you benefited out of our discussion today, and hope that you will follow these points for your life and you're
Yeah.
able to manage and handle your anger well.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you.
Papa.
Thank
See
you.
you. Bye.
Jai Shri Krishna.